The European Union plans to dramatically ramp up defence spending, mobilizing 800 billion euros over the next 4 years. The aim is to strengthen Europe's defence readiness and boost military support for Ukraine. The sharp increase signals growing concern that the bloc could also come under attack by Russia and can no longer depend on U.S. protection for Europe via NATO.
EU leaders were back in Brussels 2 weeks after their last meeting. This time, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky joined via video. He asked for 5 billion euros to buy artillery ammunition he said was urgently needed. The Council President was asked if the bloc would provide this money.
We have already ensured the support, the financial support and the military support for Ukraine during the year 2025. With the package that the European Commission presented 2 weeks ago, we increased the room to maneuver for the different member states to increase their support to Ukraine.
EU leaders say they remain ready to step up pressure on Russia. This includes more sanctions. But on the matter of confiscating the Russian central bank assets frozen in the West, it's clear they've not reached a common position about seizing the money. The same phrase again appeared in their conclusion remarks. It reads, Russia's assets should remain immobilized until Russia ceases its war of aggression against Ukraine. Nearly 200 billion euros owned by Russia is held by the Brussels-based Euroclear, a Belgian clearinghouse for financial transactions. The Baltic states, Poland and others want to confiscate the money and use it to rebuild Ukraine when the war ends. But Germany, France and Belgium don't support the idea.
Simply confiscating them, it is an act of war if you do that. But we're not living in a world of fantasy. This is the real world, where if you take 200 billion from somebody, there will be consequences. There will be systemic risks to the entire financial world system. And I think the Russians will be angry if you would do it. And that they have means to react, and that they are already planning to do so.
In the meantime, France's President Emmanuel Macron said he will host a meeting of European leaders with Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky in Paris next Thursday to discuss ways to speed up immediate military support and how to make a possible ceasefire work.
Our Brussels correspondent Tessa Vato is covering this story. Tessa, the war in Ukraine has EU leaders worried. How are they planning to help Ukraine now that U.S. support is looking less certain?
Yes, Ukraine has definitely been on top of the agenda here at the summit. And it is true, a lot of experts look across the Atlantic and see that this military aid that came from the US might not be the case in the future. So they want to help out. There is a consensus. They want to continue the support of Ukraine. Volodymyr Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, has talked to leaders here in a video call, and he pleaded that he needs this support, needed more ammunition, for example, but he also appealed to internal unity. And what did he mean by that? Well, it didn't need much reading between the lines, because he was talking about one member state that has been continuously critical of this support, and that has been Hungary. Well, Hungarian leader Viktor Orban made no exception at this summit. He also did not want to agree on a final text that all other 26 member states could agree upon. And so what happened is that there was a coalition of the willing formed of these 26 member states. They signed an agreement in the end that supports the Ukraine, and Hungary was left aside. This shows what the European Council is capable of in cases where these, unanimous decisions are not able to be made. But remember, this is also, quite complicated when it comes to bigger decisions. Ukraine wants to be part of the EU, wants these accession talks to continue, but really to make this happen, a yes from every single member state is needed. And with Hungary, pressing against that, that is not very likely to happen in the close future.
And Tessa, Europe is planning to massively boost its own defense capabilities. There's talk in Brussels of spending 800 billion euros over the next 4 years. What more can you tell us about that?
very true. Defense was a very important topic here. And what we hear from diplomats over and over again is the question, how can we turn this bloc into a military superpower? And, well, the way to get there is quite long. What we've seen in recent decades has been, well, military spending that has been decreasing and decreasing again. Experts look over the Atlantic and see that this military support from the US is maybe not coming as it used to. So if this idea of maybe potentially could a EU member state be the next target of a Russian aggression, well, who's going to defend it? And if it's not the US, then, well, EU member states are saying they have to do it themselves. And to do that, they need to ramp up defense spending. Where is the money coming from is the next question. And, well, you have to remember a lot of European member states here are currently in recession. The economy are not very rosy. So what happens is that Commission President von der Leyen suggested a loan package of 150 billion euros. This could be used to then spend on military defense. But really what we're seeing here is that also streamlining production could be an answer. For example, US military is using just one single tank model, whereas European member states are using 19. So you can see a lot of potential for more productivity and higher defense spending here in Europe.
Tessa, thank you very much. DW's Brussels correspondent Tessa Bonta.